Hi friends, get ready with me today as I tell you all about the history of how my alcohol addiction started. So when I was 21 years old, I got married to a man in the military. Prior to getting married, we had been in a long distance relationship for a couple of years. And for me, I think that was one of my biggest mistakes because when we got married, we really didn't know each other that well, and not to mention, we were very, very young. The marriage lasted for about a year and a half until one day we were watching TV, and with no warning at all, he suddenly said, "I don't think I can do this anymore." And so I said, "Would you like me to change the channel?" I thought that's what he was talking about. I had no idea. But as it turns out, he was talking about our marriage. He decided he did not want to do any kind of counseling. He was not interested. He was dead set. It was over. So he packed his bags, and I'm left wondering what on earth just happened. However, when he came back to get some of his belongings from the house, he had hickeys all over his neck, and so I got my answer. I figured out exactly what was going on, and that was really all I needed to know. And so because of this, he had been financially supporting me throughout our marriage. He didn't want me to work. And so I decided that I quickly needed to find something that I could do to support myself. And so I enrolled in nursing school. Now, it wasn't fully because of that. I also had kind of already decided I was going to go to nursing school, and I was taking a couple of prerequisites, but I got really, really serious about it then. And so anybody that has been through nursing school knows two things. Number one, how incredibly stressful nursing school is. And number two, how often we go out for drinks. So we would have a study time and we would drink, or especially after tests, we would get done at let's say 9 in the morning, and then we would just wait at the local bar before the Mexican restaurant opened. And so we would have a couple drinks at the bar, and then we would go to the Mexican restaurant for lunch and order a whole lot of margaritas. Now, at the time, I think I was not the only one drinking, but I was the one drinking the most. Now, something else that was going on in my life at that exact same time, and this was another reason I drank quite as much as I did, was my father got really sick. So my dad had been sick and on disability since I was, I think, 9 years old. However, when I entered into nursing school, his health just went downhill, and it went downhill quick. So between studying and being my dad's caregiver and being a 20-something and attempting to have some form of a social life, I hardly slept. And so when I was awake, I would just drink and party because why not? Now, I loved being able to be my dad's caregiver. Not complaining in the least. I'm just explaining how there was just some added stress to my story. Unfortunately, on October 22nd, 2013, I had had a very long day, and I came home at the end of the day at about 10 p.m. and checked on my dad like I did every single night before I went to bed, and unfortunately, I found that he was gone. He had passed. Now, to say that that night was traumatic for me is a huge understatement. I was the one that they asked, if they should do CPR, etc. And of course, any answer that I gave, I questioned and kicked myself for a million times afterwards. So the next day we had a viewing for him and just had his closest friends come. And the very next day after that, I was back in nursing clinicals at the hospital, because you literally were not allowed to miss a single day of nursing. And if you did, you were way behind, and they only allowed you to miss I think one day, but you were way behind and you had to triple make it up. I mean, it was just something ridiculous. And so I went to my clinical, barely there mentally, and yeah, I just had to show up. And so slowly but surely, I started going out to the bars. I found a family at karaoke on Friday nights, and I found me like a surrogate father at the time because he reminded me a lot of my dad, and I was missing my own father. So it started just going to the bars on Fridays, and then I started going on Fridays and Saturdays, and then I started going on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Okay, and I was the girl that like everyone wanted to drink with because I would buy shots for everybody, rounds for everybody, and that got to be really expensive. Okay, so even as a nurse, I started working as a nurse. It drained my bank account, right? And so the farther I got along in my addiction, the more I started drinking at home because it was cheaper. And so I would at first drink with people. I would like have parties with my friends, and it would be a fun social thing. And then it would be more like, okay, every once in a while I'm gonna have a drink by myself. And then I just started drinking alone and getting depressed because I had had all of these major events just kind of like pile in on me all at once, and it was just so much for me, and so I just started drinking to cope. And so through all of this, I worked multiple different nursing jobs. I got into multiple toxic relationships, and yes, I'm fully aware now that a big part of that toxicity was me. I don't think at the time I was necessarily aware of that, but I am now. I ended up in the ER so many times that I quit counting. I would drink too much, I would go unconscious, and I'd wake up and I was in a hospital bed in the emergency room. And I was like, what happened? And then I would have to have people tell me about myself, which was my least favorite thing in the world. And so I decided at that point it was time. I needed to get help. I needed some real help. So I went to a 28-day inpatient rehab. Unfortunately, though, looking back, I really did that rehab stint for my family, for my relationship at the time, and not really for me. And so I made it 108 days sober, which was the most I'd ever made it at that point. So that felt like a win. But then I got right back onto the hamster wheel, and I just kept spinning over and over and over. And now I want to clarify something. I think in one of my other videos, I had mentioned that I went to rehab in 2023. I actually went in 2022. And so I wanted to clarify because on very early at 4 a.m. on August 27th, 2023, so almost a year after my rehab, I actually had a dream. And this dream changed my whole entire life from that moment forward. And so at the time of my dream, I was not really practicing my faith at all. I had been baptized into the Christian faith at the age of 10. It was actually on my 10th birthday that I got baptized. However, I was not very well versed in scripture. I really did not read my Bible. And I think that's really important because my dream had a lot of religious symbolism in it that I actually had to look up later to be able to understand. And now I know this might sound completely crazy to you to have this dream, this religious vision, whatever you want to call it. But that's okay. You're welcome to call me crazy. I have been called a whole lot worse, especially in my active addiction. So crazy, no big deal. Please let me know in the comments. Please, please, please let me know in the comments if you want to hear more about my actual crazy dream that I had. I don't want to put myself out there and like tell this whole crazy story if nobody's gonna listen. But if you really want to hear about it, and I would really like to share it with some people, with the world. Yeah, if you want to hear about it, please let me know. And I hope that you enjoyed listening about my journey. If you have any questions at all about my journey or about alcohol addiction or anything that I've talked about, please let me know in the comments. And I hope you guys are having a great day. I love you so much. Okay, bye.